this pattern, you'll need a 5.5 millimeter Tunisian crochet hook. I'm using the set from Knitter's Pride, as well as a cable to go along with it, and I'm using their meditation cables, so they swivel, stitch markers, scissors, and a tapestry needle. So for this project, I'll be using this yarn from Montana Crochet in 3 different colorways. The goal with this shawl is to find 2 tonals and 1 variegate to bridge them. So I'm going to start on one end and just make my way through. So to begin this pattern, we're going to start with a slip knot, and then we're going to take our hook and chain 2. It's 1 and 2. Now, normally when you start a pattern, you skip the hook, you skip the chain closest to the hook, but instead we're going to go ahead and work right directly into the back bump of that next hook, just like that, and then into the next stitch too. So now we have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to do a yarn over, pull through 1, pull through 2, pull through 2, and this is our standard return pass. And then we're going to go ahead and you can kind of see how this is working out. We're going to start the next row by immediately doing an increase. So the first loop corresponds with the first stitch right there. So we're going to just ignore that first stitch. And the second stitch, we're going to do a knit stitch. So we went between the vertical bars, the back and front vertical bars. And then in the same stitch, we're going to do a simple stitch, just like that. And then we're going to turn our work, find that first stitch and yarn over, pull up a loop. Now it does look a little bit loose in the beginning, but as you work through it, it will tighten up. So we're going to do our standard return pass. So to do my increases, I'm going to go ahead and do a full stitch increase. So right after that first stitch, before the next stitch, I go ahead, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then the next stitch I'm going to do my knit stitch and my full stitch together. And in the next stitch, I'm going to only do a knit stitch. So here's my front and back vertical bars. I'm going to go in between, and then I'm going to do my last Tunisian stitch, just like that. And now I have 6 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and do this again. Now we're going to continue doing our increases. I'm going to get a little bit more yarn. But now we're going to start doing decreases on the left-hand side, and that's what's going to give us our boomerang shape. So between the first and second stitch, I'm going to pull them apart. I'm going to go ahead and insert my hook for a full stitch. Then in the next one, I'm going to do my increase, my knit and simple in the same stitch. Then I'm going to go ahead and do a knit stitch till I have 3 stitches left. All right, I have 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do a Tunisian simple stitch 2 together. So I went between. I'm going to do a simple stitch in the first and a simple stitch in the second, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we're essentially decreasing, we're subtracting a stitch, and then I'm going to do my last Tunisian. So now I have 7 stitches on my loop. I'm going to do a return pass, and I'm going to repeat this one more time for you. Get a little bit more yarn. So full stitch increase, just like that. Knit and simple in the same stitch. Knit across until you have 3 stitches on your loop, and take a second and just tighten it down. That'll help kind of keep this edge loose. You can see some of my stitches are becoming a little loose because I'm not paying close attention to them. And then till I have 3 stitches. Oops. Let me get 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 2 together, and then last Tunisian stitch, just like that. So what we're essentially doing with this pattern is we are doing we're increasing by 2 and decreasing by 1. So we should always increase our row by a total of 1 stitch. So +2 - 1 gives us just a +1 overall. So I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to do this until I get to 10 stitches on my hook. Then I'm going to come back and meet you and show you the next steps. So I have 10 stitches. So we're always going to do our full stitch as we go to the increasing side. Then I'm going to do my knit stitch here, and then I'm going to yarn over. And that yarn over is going to count and in place of that simple stitch, and it's going to create a nice little gap. So then what we're going to do is we're going to immediately go to Tunisian simple stitch 2 together, and then we're going to yarn over. Simple stitch 2 together, yarn over, 2 together, yarn over, and then we'll have 2 stitches left. We're going to skip this stitch because we have to decrease. We don't want to forget our yarn over because that's going to go with this stitch. So we will have 11 stitches now on our hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's perfect. So 11 stitches because we had 10 before. I'm doing my return pass. And now for the next row, we're going to do a Tunisian knit stitch row, but we have to adapt it a little bit because of the lace that we're creating. So we're going to always start, as always, with our Tunisian full stitch. Then in the next stitch, knit stitch, simple, together. Don't forget this little stitch here. That's right there. We're going to knit stitch there. And then you're going to see where the lacy part is. This is where our yarn overs were. So we're going to go ahead and go in for a knit stitch, then a knit, then another knit, then a knit, then another knit, then a knit. So now we've come to an area where we're going to go ahead and do a skip stitch so we can do the decreases we need to get the boomerang shape. And go right straight into my last Tunisian stitch. Just like that. So I'm going to do that, and you can see how it's kind of starting to open up. Return pass, and then we're going to repeat our Tunisian 2 together, simple stitch 2 together row. I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. Again, we're always going to start with that full stitch increase. So I'm going to go right in between, full stitch. Then I'm going to do my knit stitch, and then remember, after our knit stitch, instead of doing the simple stitch, we're going to yarn over. Then I'm going to take these 2 stitches 2 together and yarn over, and then simple stitch 2 together, yarn over, 2 together, and yarn over, 2 together, yarn over, and then we have 2 stitches left. So we have this stitch and our last Tunisian stitch. We're going to skip that stitch right there and go straight into our last Tunisian stitch, and then pull through 2 and do our return pass. Now we're going to basically repeat the same row that we did before, so that we can kind of make sure our stitch count remains the same. So again, in between the 2, so you can pull them apart if you need to right there. I'm going to go ahead and do my full stitch increase. This one is going to be a knit stitch and a simple stitch, then a knit stitch. So then we're going to go in for a knit stitch in between, then another knit stitch, then another knit stitch in between, and then another knit stitch. We're going to go right in between there, then the knit stitch between, then another knit stitch, and you can see right there where the knit stitch is. I'm going to go ahead and spread that out so you can see right there and there. Go in for the knit stitch, perfect, then go in for another knit stitch, we're going to go ahead and just skip it and do our last Tunisian. And that's kind of how the pattern begins to start. So I'm going to do my return pass, and then I'm going to do an alternating of 2 more knit stitches, and then I'm going to repeat this 4-row repeat. So it's a 6-row repeat total. I'm going to keep working on this, and then I'll meet you back and show you the next step. So I'm reaching the end of my row, and I've reached the point now where I'm ready to begin adding the next color. Now, as we move forward, so I'm going to leave these two hooks on. When I add a new color, we're going to be also changing up the stitch. So I've been mainly doing the Tunisian knit stitch for this. Now I'm going to go ahead and with my second color, I'm going to start doing the full stitch. We've already kind of been doing the full stitch with our increases, so it should be pretty seamless. Just to show you, I'm going to, let me get this back the way it should be. I've pulled through the last two with the new color, and then I'm going to go ahead and let me get a little bit extra of this yarn, and I'm going to do my full stitch increase. Our increases on the side are not going to change, so I'm going to do my full stitch increase, then in the next stitch the combination knit stitch and simple stitch, just like that. And then we're going to start doing our full stitch. Now for this, as we go, we're going to alternate, we're going to figure out where we want to start and go from there. So here's my first stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and start after that stitch. So here's my stitch before, here's the next stitch, and for the full stitch, remember we're going to go between the stitches. So full stitch there. So because I started after the full stitch, my last stitch will be also after the stitch. But we also are still going to be doing our decreases on that other end. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing my full stitches just like this. And you can see that it's going to change things up a little bit. So I'm going to keep working on this, just doing my full stitches, and if you need to, pull them apart so that you can work on that. But go ahead, get your full stitch in there, and then I'll meet you when we get close to the end to show you how we're going to do our decreases. So I'm now getting close to the end here. I have 5 stitches left. I'm going to go ahead, full stitch for the 5th stitch, full stitch for the 4th stitch, and then with these two, these are going to be our decreasing stitch. So we're going to Tunisian stitch 2 together, and then we'll do our last Tunisian stitch. And then I'm going to do my return pass, and on the next row, I'm going to be switching back to the blue, to color 1, and I will go ahead and do a knit stitch row. So I'm going to do a few more of these rows just to show you what the pattern looks like, but you're going to be alternating full stitch in color 2 with knit stitch in color 1. I'm just finishing up the return pass for the halfway point of the stitch. I'm going to just go ahead for a second and just put a stitch marker in here so I don't lose this and catch you up on what we've done on the shawl. So we had the rows of color 1, which was the areas of the Tunisian knit stitch 2 together to make the kind of the lacy pattern here. Then we started the woven stitch, and the woven stitch was the alternating rows, like once we get past our 3 knit stitch of knit stitch, full stitch, knit stitch, full stitch, just alternating rows. We always pick to have color 2 in the when we were doing the full stitch rows, and color 1 was always knit stitch. Then after repeating that, I went to a point where I was only doing this part right here. Is only in color 2. So we were done with color 1, we could fasten it off. And then I repeated the woven stitch again for a little bit, and then we went back to our Tunisian simple stitch 2 together rows. So now we're at a halfway point. And you can see that on this side, we have a diagonal, and on this side, we have a diagonal. And now we're about to flip that around. So let me pick up my hook again, and I'll show you what I mean. We've always been doing increases on this side and decreases on the other side, but now we're going to do the exact opposite. And what we're doing is we're creating, let me get my hook, we're going to create a symmetrical mirrored version of what we just did. So what we've been doing historically is we've been doing a full stitch right in there, and then we've been increasing, doing our Tunisian knit and simple in the next stitch. What we're going to do for this first row only is we're going to do a simple stitch 2 together, and we're only going to do 1. For each subsequent row, when we're doing decreases, we'll be doing 2, but for this first part, we want to keep our stitch count exactly the same. So after that, I'm going to go ahead and just do my knit stitches as normal, and I'm going to continue doing knit stitches all the way across till I get to the end, and then we're going to do an increase there, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. So hang tight. I'll meet you at the end and show you the next step. So I'm here with 2 stitches left. And what we're going to do is for this row only, we decreased 1. We're only going to increase 1, 2. So this stitch count will have the same number of stitches as the previous row. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and do a knit stitch in the second to last stitch and a simple stitch. And then we'll go ahead and do a last Tunisian. So now I have the same number of stitches as the row before. I'm going to do my return pass, and then I'm going to show you how to do this with the change in the increases and decreases. So now I'm here on this end, and we're going to do our decreases. And to do our decreases, we're going to be doing them a little bit differently. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip stitches in the first set of stitches and in the second set of stitches. So I'm not going to yarn over. I'm skipping this stitch. I'm going to do my Tunisian 2 together and then yarn over. So I have 3 stitches, but I've actually passed 4 stitches. Then I'm going to skip this stitch again, just like I did there, and Tunisian simple stitch 2 together, and then I'll yarn over again, and I want to keep these stitches nice and snug. Now I have 5 loops on my hook, including this yarn over, but I've done 7 stitches, so I've done a decrease of 2. Now we're just going to continue as before with our simple stitch 2 together, yarn over. I'm going to do this till I get to towards the end, last couple stitches, and then I'll show you what the next step is. So I have 3 stitches left from the first row of doing the Tunisian knit stitch 2 together. There was my yarn over that goes with these stitches. I'm going to go ahead and do my Tunisian knit stitch 2 together. Remember, the yarn over goes afterwards. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do a full stitch. That is our increase for this row. There's only 1 increase, and we did 2 decreases, so we're -1 stitches. Then I did my last Tunisian stitch, and now I'm going to do my return pass. And what we're going to do is we decreased on 1 this side. We're now increasing on 1 this side. You'll see the same angle to match this. So I'm going to go ahead and do my return pass. The next row is going to be a knit stitch row. So, but this time we're going to do 2 decreases on the right side of the shawl, and I'll do a return pass, then I'll show you how to do that. We're now back to this other side, and you can see we're starting to get a little point. It's going to be the point of the triangle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look here. We have a stitch here, we have a stitch here, and a stitch here. So normally what we would do is we would pick up a stitch here and then pick up a stitch here and here, but we're going to decrease. So I'm going to skip this stitch, and I'm going to do a Tunisian simple stitch 2 together. So where there was 4 stitches, there's now 2. Take a second and tighten that down. So I've now skipped 2 stitches. So this is how we will always do our decreases for the knit stitch rows. For the full stitch rows is we'll skip a stitch, then we'll do a Tunisian simple stitch 2 together, then we'll continue on with our row as normal. So now I'm going to go ahead and work this row normally till I have 1 remaining stitch, and then I will do my increase there. So here's the final pattern, and I kind of want to go through the steps for the decreasing side first. So we did our center matching row, then we started doing our decreases with our increase, 1 increase on this side, 2 decreases on this side. I've done my woven stitch here. That's the alternating rows of Tunisian knit and Tunisian full stitch. Then I blended in color 3 for the second portion. Then I mirrored exactly what we did at the first portion with our rows of Tunisian knit stitch and our lace pattern here. We keep decreasing, and we're going to get all the way to the end, and then you're going to follow the pattern to kind of decrease your stitches to the end. I ended up adding tassels. I did them in color 2, but what I wanted to show you was how this neck really opens up. I actually love the way this neckline is. I think it's beautiful. So this is the whole pattern. We have 2 wings on each side with I put tassels on them. Because it's a boomerang style shawl, you're going to have kind of skinnier, longer wings, which I actually love. And then you have this beautiful lace stitch. And the real goal with this is to create a really nice fade as you're working through. So all the details for this pattern are going to be in the description below. You can also find more information on my website. I hope you like this pattern. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And also please do subscribe. It helps to grow my channel. Thank you and happy crocheting.